this topic. So one of the objectives of the topic is, at the end of this topic, which is breach of confidence, you must understand the difference between private and confidential information. You must be able to understand the difference between private and confidential information. Again, you must be able to write articles that respect and uphold the confidentiality of people. You must be able to write articles that respect and uphold the confidentiality of people. And the other thing is that you must be aware of when you can breach other people's confidentiality. It is always good to be aware as a journalist, because you'll be involved in writing news. You'll be involved in publishing news. You'll be involved in broadcasting news. And you must be aware when you are doing what? When you are breaching someone's confidential information or confidentiality. You must be aware and you must be able to respect and uphold the confidentiality of other people, because if you go against the confidentiality of other people, you'll find yourself in the wrong side of law. That's why we are doing this. So by the end of this topic, you must be able to understand that confidentiality is very important, and breaching the confidentiality can land you in great danger. So therefore, we look at what we call breach of confidence. So this law has been put in place so as to protect the confidentiality or the confidential information of individuals. This law has been put in place so that to protect confidential information of individuals. So, for example, if you breach you breach the you breach the confidence of somebody, and he takes you to court, you'll be prosecuted under breach of confidence law. So there is what we call the breach of confidence law. So you'll be prosecuted under the breach of confidence law. So then we ask ourselves, what is breach of confidence? We ask ourselves, what is breach of confidence? So I hope we can all see what I'm putting down there. So in order to establish a breach of confidence, so in order for you to say that this is breach of confidence, or for somebody else, maybe the reader, the viewer, or the listener, to say that this is breach of confidence, then the claimant, the person claiming that his confidence has been breached, must show that, number one, that the information has the necessary quality of confidence. So this person called the claimant must show that that information that you have talked, that the journalist has posted on the that has published on a newspaper, the information that this journalist has broadcasted on radio or television has the necessary quality of confidence, because there are some information that do not have the necessary quality of confidence. So he must show that this information has the necessary qualities of confidence. The next thing, the claimant also must show that the information was given in circumstances which imposed an obligation of confidence. So the claimant, this person must show that that information that was given to him in a circumstances that imposed an obligation of confidence. Like, for example, when you are employed, you are a new employee in a media house. In most cases, they will not tell you that this one is confidential, it should not go outside. Most cases. But the information that you will be shown even your instinct tells you that this is confidential information and should not be let out to the public. So there are some information that you are given, and when you look at that information, you yourself, your conscience tells you that this information doesn't have to be told to another person. This is confidential information. So therefore, the claimant must show that the information that was given, that he was given in circumstances which impose an obligation of confidence. For example, me as your lecturer, there are so many things that I see, including your files, what you got in high school, what you got in media law and ethics, and so many other units. So I have access to such information. So somebody, even if you tell me that that is not, I mean, even if you don't tell me anything or you don't advise me, I know that that is confidential information, and therefore it should be kept confidential. So your instinct tells you, will always guide you that this is confidential information. Another thing, the claimant must show that there has been or will be unauthorized use of information, of the information. So sometimes you sense that this information, there might be unauthorized use of it. So therefore, the claimant must show that there has been or will be unauthorized use of the information. Unless there is a question. So let's look at something else called information having the necessary quality of confidence. So let's look at information having the necessary quality of confidence. When we talk about information having the necessary quality of confidence, we are saying that any type of information, whether it is in written or in oral form, can be confidential. This also includes ideas. So an idea can be confidential. So this information that can be confidential does not mean that once it is written down, it does not only mean that once it is recorded in a CD, or maybe, for example, recorded in any recordable material. No, we are told that any information can be confidential. It can be written or oral. It can also be an idea. Any information can be confidential. So your husband or your husband or your dad might tell you something, and you say, now this one I can say it to somebody else because there is no way I can prove it. I mean, there is no way if I'm taken to court, it is difficult to prove. That's what I mean. No, any information said, written, can be confidential. So let's look at what we call circumstances imposing an obligation of confidence. So when you talk about circumstances imposing an obligation of confidence, we mean circumstances that requires you to be confidential. We mean circumstances that requires you to be confidential. So number one, we talk of agreement. So circumstances imposing an obligation, number one, we can talk about agreement. Under agreement, then we can say that an obligation of confidence can arise by the terms of an agreement. So an agreement can either be written or oral. So Femi, ninaweza kuja kwako na we have an agreement. nikwambie I want you to do this for me and I will do this for you. That is an oral agreement. Again, I can have a written agreement with you. Like sometimes when these people, when they are buying properties, when one is buying property and maybe one party is not able to pay, maybe you're selling the property at 4 million shillings, and maybe this guy has only 3.5 million. So he gives you the 3.5 million. Then because people change, this person might run away with the 500, the remaining balance, which is 500,000. So you come up with a written agreement. You write an agreement where both parties are comfortable about it. Also remember that an agreement can be revoked by either party. So one party can revoke an agreement and the other one can revoke an agreement. How can they revoke an agreement? By just, they can actually, by not, sometimes it is by you not doing what? Not you, by one party not doing his part. Like, for example, if it is a plot costing 4 million and you've been paid 3.5 million, there, and maybe you have said by a certain date, one party might not pay, that party might not pay you the remaining 500,000. So that is not doing what? His part. So the agreement can be revoked like that. So we are saying, even if there is no terms relating to confidentiality, the confidential nature of agreement may be so obviously intended by the transaction that a duty of confidence will be imposed. In short, we are saying that even if sometimes when you're doing an agreement or when you're making an agreement, there may be no term showing that there is confidentiality. But when you look at that nature of the transaction, you obviously know that there is what we call a duty of confidence. A duty of confidence is imposed in a way that I am supposed to keep this information confidential, and the other party is supposed to keep that information confidential. So sometimes you are the way things are done and the way transactions are done and the way communication is done, you realize that this information is confidential. So we have said circumstances imposing an obligation of confidence, we are talking about an agreement. So we are saying that sometimes when you're having an agreement, which might be oral or which might be written, there is always a duty of a duty of confidence for both parties. There is always a duty of confidence. Another thing is what we call employees. So when you talk about employees, this is what we mean. That employees can be private or government employees. Employees can be private or government. This I mean that in this country of ours, there are people who have been employed by government and there are people who have been employed by private companies. So therefore, a contract of employment may contain terms. So anytime that you have been employed by an organization, there is always a contract. There is always a contract of employment. Like you have been called for an interview. Maybe we are looking for a public relations assistant. You go for that interview and then you pass that interview and then they call you to come and take a letter of offer. There is what we call an offer letter. So you go and take the offer letter and then you read the terms. Usually you're not supposed, you're supposed to take that offer letter with you at home, read it carefully. After reading it carefully, then you decide whether you should sign. So you are given some time to read that particular letter and then decide for yourself. If you agree to the contract or to the offer, then you sign the document and you take it to the employer, whereby you are left with your own copy and the employer is left with his own copy to actually show that you have accepted the offer. So in such a circumstance, you realize that in that particular contract, there are what we call terms of employment. Okay, sometimes, I mean, when you talk about terms of employment, the offer letter does not always have all the terms of employment. Some terms of employment, you're going to get them at the place of work. So when you talk about terms of employment, they usually do what? They expressively prevent an employer from exposing land information during the course of employment. So when you have these terms of employment and you have accepted this particular offer, there is what we call information that is in actually that term of employment. Some terms of employment are very, very long. Some contracts are very long. It is a document that you have to read and read it carefully. While in some organization, is a 2 or 3 page document. And the rest of the terms of employment, you learn them when as you work. So therefore, when you sign that contract, it means that there are some things that you're going to keep confidential. So a contractual term imposing a duty of confidence. So this contractual term usually do what? It imposes a duty of confidence. So once you have accepted an offer, it means that you are going to do what? To live by that offer. And once you go against the offer, then the organization, there are so many things that the organization can do. The organization may fire you. The organization may look for ways in which to discipline you. And to a large extent, it can take you to court because you have breached the confidence between the organization and yourself. You have been told that even if a contract of employment does not contain an express confidence clause, just like I was saying, that even if you have been given a letter of employment, and this letter of employment, it doesn't have anywhere that is written that confidential information should be kept confident. Well, you just know that an employee owes an implied duty of confidence. So once you sign that particular letter, whether there are clauses written that you should keep confidential information confident, or whether there is that particular section or not, it is an implied. It is actually, we call it implied. It is implied that anything that you come across as far as that organization is concerned in the course of your employment, it should be kept confidential. So how long does it last? How long should you keep confidential information in an organization? Maybe Deborah, you can tell us. Deborah, I'm asking, you have been employed by an organization. How long should you keep confidential information confident?
As long as you're working there.
Elvis. Huyu Elvis sijui kwenye yako. Femi, maybe you can tell us. How long should you keep the confidential information confident? Femi?
I also think it's the same answer that Debbie has given, as long as you're working there.
Good. As long as you're working there, you should always keep that information confident. What about if you get out of that place and you are employed somewhere else? Should you now keep the information that you learned from that particular organization confident? Femi?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do you think so? Maybe you are working for Inoro TV. Now, no, maybe, yeah, Inoro TV. Now you are working for Kameme TV. So there's some information that you are keeping confident in Inoro TV. And now you have moved from Inoro, you have gone to Kameme. Should you continue keeping confidential information that you learned from Inoro TV confident? Or should you expose it now maybe to anybody, any Tom, Dick, and Harry that you meet?
Yes.
You can expose the information.
No. I'll keep it confident.
Yeah, you should keep it confident. Keep it confident. Yes. Because it is very wrong when you're working for an organization and then the confidential information that you learned from that particular organization, you now take it to another organization that you have just gotten a job with. It is very wrong. It is very wrong. So therefore, we have looked at employees. The next one, we are looking at now this is not the next one, but we are looking at relationships. After this, we are looking at what we call relationships of confider and confidant. So we are looking at relationships here. Wait a minute. I'm trying to put something there. So we are looking at relationships of confider and confidant. This is not, you're talking about confidant. So one of the relationship, we are going to look at husband and wife. Husband and wife. This is a relationship of confider and confidant. The person who should keep it confident and the person who is given that obligation to keep it confident. Confidant and confider. So we can see that more often you come to realize that obligation arises by virtue of a relationship between the confider and confidant. So therefore, we are considering this relationship, and the first relationship is the husband and wife. So as far as the husband and wives are concerned, you come to realize that the law will not permit, the law does not permit the relationship of anything confided, anything confided by one spouse to the other during a marriage. So the law does not permit the relationship, the revelation, not the relationship, but the revelation of anything confided by one spouse to the other during a marriage. So if you are married to somebody and he wants to expose you on TV or expose your secrets on radio, then you have the right to sue that person because he has done what? He has breached the confidence of the marriage. So the law does not permit that to happen. Maybe you may be asking yourself, why then do we have people going to patanisho? I know you know what patanisho is. Deborah, do you know what patanisho is? Deborah, I'm asking a question. Eh?
No.
You know.
No.
Femi, do you know patanisho?
Yes, I know.
Now, maybe Femi, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Then why do other people go to patanisho and nothing happens? Let's say, for example, it is me and you. So I decide to go to patanisho to talk about maybe you and me. Why would you not go and sue me?
Because because I have confidence in you. And I'm married.
But I have taken this issue to a national broadcaster or to a radio station that broadcast to almost, let's say, for example, 3 million people. I'm assuming 3 million people watch patanisho. Why would you not sue me after that?
I don't know.
So Deborah has said that she doesn't know patanisho. Maybe you can explain her what patanisho is, so then we can continue.
Okay. Patanisho is I don't know if I call it a program.
Yeah, it is a program.
Yeah, that always runs at, I think it's Radio Maisha.
Yeah, as we speak, it is going on.
Yeah, so when couples or married people, let me explain it in Kiswahili, boy.
It is okay.
Kama watu wenye wameoana wamekosana, for example, mmoja akaenda akaacha mwingine, so one of the guys ataenda kwa patanisho, then I explain the problem kwa hao wenye huwa wana host patanisho, then they will call that person, then they bring them together, wanawapatanisha. Yeah, that's patanisho.
And it is not always that watapatanishwa vizuri. Sometimes it goes sour.
Yes.
So that is patanisho. So the reason why I had asked you a question, why then doesn't a husband or a wife sue the other party for maybe breaching the confidence? Kwa nini asifanye hivyo? Kwa nini asimsue? Kwa sababu amefanya nini? Breach confidence ya marriage. Number one, you should know that we said that what is breach of confidence there? We said that the information has the necessary quality of what? Of confidence. So when you see a wife suing the husband on patanisho, then that means that marriage, there is no what we call sanity. Hakuna sanity hata kidogo. Na hakuna kitu inaitwa confidence already. Kwa sababu ni kumaanisha, because before some of them, before they go to patanisho, utapata ya kwamba mtu anasema nilienda nikaita wazazi wake, tukaenda mpaka kwa chief, tumeenda mpaka sijui wapi, mpaka ndugu yake nimekutana na yeye, nimeongea na yeye, aongee naye, something like that. You will hear stories of the sort, meaning that the already confidential information has already been rendered useless, or it has not, the quality of confidence has already been broken. So that is why when a husband go and reports a wife on a patanisho or vice versa, one party might not go to court because that quality of confidence was already broken by one. Maybe they told the chief, maybe they told the father and the mother, the parents, or maybe they told their brothers and their husbands. And now you come to realize that people know. You sometimes you'll be very shocked to realize that even the community or the neighbors, even they know what happens in that particular marriage. Now that quality of confidence has already been broken. So you cannot say that that information is confidential. It is not confidential. And once the quality of confidence has already been broken, that marriage is not confidential. It does not have, I mean, that particular item is not confidential. Maybe what you're talking about. It can be even be a property. It can also be children, how you got your children. It can also be maybe cheating, such things. So we've talked about husband and wife, and here we are saying that so matrimonial secrets may be published if the confidence of the whole marriage has been destroyed. So the confidence of the whole marriage has been destroyed. That is why these two people, or one of them, goes to patanisho. So once the confidence of the whole marriage has been destroyed, that is when you realize that people now, they can tell anybody, they can say it anywhere, etc, etc. But if that confidence is still there, then that it should be kept like that. So there is also another relationship of confider and confidant, and this one we are looking at number 2, doctor and patient. Doctor and patient. So doctor has been given that obligation of keeping confidential information confident. So a doctor should not use the patient's information and tell it to somebody else. Sometimes you realize that some doctor use the patient's information to tell it to somebody else to show how good they are. Like, for example, I'm assuming, this is just an example. Maybe, no, just say, for example, Femi, for example, you are sick. And God forbid this, or maybe let me not use the Debbie, let me use another person. Maybe, for example, a patient is sick, is suffering from maybe HIV and AIDS. And this patient, this information should be kept confident by the doctor. Now, this doctor goes ahead and tell it to maybe a friend and maybe other patients that are coming in. Like, for example, maybe I'm the next patient, and maybe the doctor tells me, do you see that lady who has just walked out of my office? That lady is suffering from HIV and AIDS. You see, that one is very wrong. So doctors should keep information of the patients confident. That's why sometimes when you take somebody, let's say, for example, it is your friend who is sick, you take him or her to the hospital. First of all, you are asked, who are you to this parent? I mean, to this patient. If you say you are a friend, you are told to contact his family members, because the doctor doesn't want to give a particular information to another person. Let it remain within the family. If that patient is married, then you are told, call the husband. But the doctor will be very categorical. He will tell you, no, I cannot tell you what the patient is suffering from. Just call the husband so that we can talk with the husband, or call his brothers and sisters or his relatives. Now, that is a good doctor. Other doctors don't even follow that. They will just tell you this person is suffering from HIV and AIDS. This person is diabetic or something like that. So therefore, doctors should keep information of the patient confident. So we can actually say that the court has emphasized that the court has emphasized the public interest in preserving confidentiality of medical records. So the health authority has the responsibility to prevent publication of confidential health information. So the issue of whether information by a child to a doctor should be kept confidential from the parent is open to discussion. So sometimes you come to realize that a child has been taken to hospital by a mother or by a father. Should that information of a child be kept confident? So that one is open to discussion. So a lawyer and a client, we also have a lawyer and a client. Some of us at home or our parents have got lawyers, family lawyers. So we have lawyers and clients, or as a client. So you as a lawyer, you should actually do what? You should actually keep the information of your client confidential. For example, you come to realize that because of corruption, maybe for example, you have a lawyer who is actually supposed to represent you in court. Maybe for example, you are charged with murder. Maybe you are charged with murder, or maybe you are charged with maybe something else, and you're supposed to go to court. So the lawyer, your lawyer must present you to court as far as that particular case is concerned. And then you come to realize that this lawyer of yours does what? This lawyer of yours decides to do what? Decides to get involved with the lawyer of the opposing side, of the other side, maybe the person who, the defendant, not the claimant. So then he's bribed, and then he gives confidential information to the other party. Now that is very wrong, because so many lawyers do that. So that at the end of the day, you come to realize that you have lost the case. So that is very wrong. So all information given to a lawyer by his client should be treated as confidential and should not be let out. The other one, the other relationship is the priest. Some of us go to church, the priest and the parishioner. So the priest and the parishioner. So the priest sometimes, especially those who are in Catholic, maybe you sometimes go to a priest and tell him what you have committed, and you ask him or her you help you to be forgiven by God or something like that. So sometimes you can go there to confess. Maybe there is a missing cow in the village. Maybe you are the one who was. Maybe you are the one who was actually, or who castigated the missing of that particular animal. And then you go to the priest to tell the priest to confess your sins. And then the priest go ahead to the chief and tells the chief, I know the person who stole the community cow. And then he tells the chief. Now that is very wrong. Actually, a priest or a parishioner will give confidential information to a priest by confessing. And it's the responsibility of that particular priest to ensure that the information is treated as confidential as possible. If that priest actually say it to the public or to another person, then you as the parishioner, you can sue the priest for breach of confidence. Even if you are the thief, you can still sue the priest for breach of confidence. The other one, the other relationship is what we call media process. Media process. So media sources are people that give information to the media. Like maybe for example, Harid, you have been sent by a certain media house, and you've been told to go and cover news. Say this, say for example, it's all about drug abuse. So you've been sent to go and cover news on drug abuse. Now you are sent to Mombasa. I know Mombasa is where we have so many cases of drug abuse. So you are sent to Mombasa to go and do cover a report on that, or correct report on that. And then maybe for example, you are led you are taken to the to the users now, the users of the drug abusers, and then you are interviewing them. And then all of a sudden it is put on news. But this time around, maybe for example, you are covering their identity for their security purposes. You are covering their identity for security purposes, or maybe you have blurred their faces. But you can see you're interviewing them. Then the following day, the government comes to the media house and asks you to reveal the sources. That one will be very wrong if you reveal the sources, because one of the core journalistic code of ethics is to keep confidential information confident, and also to do what? To protect your sources. You should not always, actually you should not expose your sources. They gave you information in good faith, and then you expose them. That one will be like jeopardy. You are jeopardizing them. So therefore, you should keep confidential information of your sources confident. The obligation of confidence extends beyond the original parties to any third person who receives the information knowing of a breach of confidence. So therefore, liability of a third party often arises where information of confidential nature is provided to the media, published in breach of that confidence. So the media practitioners need to be careful when handling information given in breach of confidence. Always be careful when handling information given in breach of confidence. Is there any question before we move to something else? Khalid, is there any question?
No, sir.
Femi? Femi, kuna swali?
And Mwalimu,
Yes.
and can I ask you, and if there's a breach of confidence between a husband and wife, for example, lead to suing, or can doctor and patient lead to suing? Can you sue your doctor if he
you can sue the doctor for breach of confidence, because this is a law. There is what we call breach of confidence law. So this is a law. So when you sue your doctor or your husband or your wife, then he will be prosecuted under breach of confidence law.
Okay.
Elvis. Deborah, is there any question?
No. No question.
Femi, you are on and off. Is there any question? Femi, kuna swali?
No question, sir.
You have understood everything.
Yeah, but now this relationship of confider and confidant, is it under the circumstance of imposing an obligation? Or those two things are different?
When you talk about relationship of confide and confidence,
Yes.
everybody has an obligation. Like for example, the confider is the person who has the secret, the confidential information. Like I am the confider. The company that hires you is the confider. The confidant is the person being given the information that he or she should keep it confident. Everybody has an obligation to keep that information that you have been given confidential. So that is why we are saying the relationship of confider and confidant. So the moment you have been given information that is confidential, you just know that you have entered into a relationship. Wewe jua tu kisheria uko kwa relationship fulani. The moment Femi I come and give you information about maybe Zitec University, wewe jua tu uko kwa relationship fulani kisheria. Now the moment you expose those confidential information to the public, then you have breached the you have breached the confidence of that particular organization. Remember, to get into a relationship with something, we have said you can get through what? Through word of mouth, you can get it in a written form, or maybe through what we call through assumption. You can just assume, like for example, maybe your contract, you are working for Kameme TV, and or maybe you are working for Nation TV or Nation Media Group. Then maybe you are working for 3 months. After 3 months, your contract will be over. And or maybe let's say, for example, your contract. Let's say, for example, your contract is always renewed after every 3 months. So after 3 months, we will assume still you are working for that organization, because ikiisha si kumaanisha kwamba kwa sababu imeisha leo na haijarenewiwa leo hauwezi endelea. You still go to work in the hope that it will be renewed even after a week. Therefore, you assume your duties. So sometimes your contract can be relationship can be through assumption.
Okay.
So I hope we don't have any question. So we can move to something else. And this time round, we are going to look at what we call the defenses. So defenses, when you talk about defenses, is that in case, for example, you have been taken to court for breach of confidence, there are some things, you have been taken to court for breaching the confidence, or you are a victim of breaching the confidence, then there are what we call defenses. And some of the defenses are Let me write them down. Some of the defenses are: number one, you can talk about public domain. So when you talk about public domain, this is what we mean. When we talk about public domain, we mean that confidentiality will not generally attach to information that is already general to public knowledge or the public domain. So the court will consider the medium that was used to publicize information before deciding whether the information is in public domain or not. So therefore, not all medium used will qualify or will actually quantify to the information being in public domain. So in short, we are saying that whenever the information is already in the public domain, then that information lacks what we call the quality of confidence. A very good example is, for example, I'm writing about this guy or this lady called Akothe. I believe you know Akothe. If I'm writing a story about Akothe, and I'm saying he has several husbands or so on, and so several husbands several husbands and several kids with different husbands or with different fathers, then Akothe cannot sue me for breach of confidence because the information is already in the public domain. So therefore, if you are sued for breach of confidence, as the defendant, you can actually say that the information is already in the public domain. So there was nothing public, there was nothing private about it. So it doesn't have that quality of confidentiality. So Akothe cannot sue you because, number one, the information is still in the public domain and that quality of confidentiality is not there. The next one is what we call consent. Consent means, maybe for example, you have been given a permission. Like for example, somebody can give you permission to breach the confidence of the information. Like for example, maybe you are a husband or husband versus wife. Maybe there is something that you want to tell the public or maybe a third party. Remember, the moment you give information to a third party, that information ceases to be confidential. So the husband may ask permission from the wife, or the wife may ask permission from the husband. Or maybe you want to say something on a national radio or TV. So one party may ask for permission, and once he's given the permission, then he can go ahead and publicize the information. So that way, it will be a defense in case, because the husband or the wife might say, mimi sikukwambia uende public, or the organization might again tell you, I did not tell you to go and publish the information, or I did not tell you to go and publicize the information. You see, people are people, they might change. In such a circumstance, you need a written agreement or a recorded agreement or a recorded what? A recorded agreement or a recorded consent to show that actually you are given the permission to go and publicize the information or disseminate it to the public. So consent is a defense. And this defense is on this guy called who? The claimant, no, the defendant. This one favors the defendant. Then we have what we call public interest. That is what we call public interest. Let me write it down. Now, when an issue is on the public interest, is an issue of public interest, then you come to realize that it will be a defense to you as a defendant. Like, for example, the contract that you have with your organization. So you see, there are what we call organizations that have been registered by the government. And when these organizations are there, you come to realize that there are some things that it does that are not legal. For example, you might find an organization A, say for example, is a service rendering organization. But kuna vitu ambazo huwa wanafanya ambazo si nzuri, like maybe drug trafficking, like for example, children trafficking or abduction. You see, when you breach the confidence of that organization, as far as abduction and trafficking is concerned, then you can defend yourself as a defendant by saying that the matter that you published or that you said on the national broadcast was a matter of public interest. Do you have any question there? Khalid, do you have a question?
No, sir.
Femi?
No.
Elvis? Elvis, is there any question?
No.
Deborah, do you have any question?
No.
So I hope we are okay. So maybe Femi, you can tell us what is consent? Femi, tell us what is consent and give us an example. We are waiting.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know how to frame it, but I just
You
understood the
just explain. We want to understand more. You know, the more when you talk about understanding, for you to understand something, you keep on saying it until now you can not forget anymore.
Yeah. I don't know
We
how
are
to
waiting.
frame it.
Maybe you can give us an example. When you talk about public interest, what do we mean? Not public interest, consent. What do we mean?
I'm thinking of an
You
example.
are taking long to think. Maybe you should be explaining before giving an example.
Mm.
Deborah, you can help.
I think
Consent is when you allow someone to use the information that you give them in confidence. Now you allow them to breach the confidence.
For example,
Okay. Like conversations that could be vital in court proceedings.
Khalid, what will you say? What is consent?
Consent is when you take the permission of the other person and to talk about this thing, or to to break the confidence. When you take the permission of the other party, like in an organization, you have a written permission, or you have a recorded phone call, so that it will be a support of you, or it will be your defense if the other party denies giving you permission.
That is okay.
I have
Let's look at something else. Remedies to breach of confidence. Remedies to breach of confidence. You should not confuse defenses and remedies. Defenses is when maybe you have been found guilty and you need to show the court that you are truly not guilty. Or to show the court and the other person, we usually have the defendant and the claimant. So when the claimant says something, actually sues you or sues a certain party, then the other party, which is the defendant, should show the court that he is not guilty. And the claimant should show the court that the defendant is guilty. Of course, you don't just say it. You just don't say it. You have to say it with what we call evidence. You need to have evidence. Now, those are defenses on both sides, because it will get to a time after the lawyer has listened to the case, he will give you the defenses. He will actually ask you to defend yourself. After defending yourself and you have been found to be guilty, so guilty can fall on either party, either defendant or claimant. So if you are guilty, then there are what we call remedies. Lawyers wamesikiza kesi, wamekupea muda wa kujitetea. After wamekupatia muda wa kujitetea, wameamua ya kwamba wewe uko guilty. Na guilty unaweza kuwa ni defendant na pia anaweza kuwa ni claimant. Sasa baada ya kujitetea kuna kitu inaitwa remedy. Remedies are solutions. We just call them medicine. They are solutions of medicine. It is just like saying I am guilty. So what next? What should I do? I'm guilty of what we call breach of confidence. So what should I do? So the court will tell you, number one is injunction. So when you talk about injunction is actually a court order. An injunction is a court order directing either the defendant or the claimant to do something or to refrain or stop from doing it. So therefore, if you realize that you are one of your party, or maybe for example is the husband, you have realized that your wife is about to do what? To sue you, not to sue you, but to publish confidential information through maybe a national TV or a national broadcaster. You can run court. Remember, once confidential information has been said to the public or has been delivered to the public, the quality of confidentiality does what? The quality of confidentiality has been destroyed. So once you take this person to court, the court might give an injunction. So the court might give an injunction to stop that particular information from being published to the third party or to the public. Because once it is published to the third party, that confidentiality is lost completely. So kama wewe ni bwana ya mtu na ulikuwa unataka kupeleka information kwa national television, bibi yako akakimbia kotini akapewa injunction, akaambiwa pelekea bwana yako umwambie asijaribu kufanya hivyo, because the moment atafanya hivyo confidentiality will be lost. Kama itapotea hiyo quality of confidentiality will actually be lost. So the court can give an injunction. So that is remedy number one. Remedy number two is what we call damages. Damages are, I can call them the losses. The losses that somebody has gone as far as what we call breach of confidence is concerned. So in these damages, so actually these damages are not easy to calculate. Not unless in a situation where the confidential information was used for financial gain. So they are not easy to calculate unless that information or that confidential information was used where the confidential or actually was used for monetary gain. That one will make the calculation of damages easy. For example, you talk about maybe, for example, somebody published something confidential to the public. The damages of this, let's say, for example, you are going to be stressed. You might be stressed. You might, you might be stressed. You might be psychologically affected, etc., etc. You see now, to talk about stress, you cannot actually say that you are stress what 2 million. It is very difficult to calculate such damages. So they are calculated based on each case at hand. Because different people are affected by loss of confidentiality. You come to realize that some people don't even care about it. Other people are so much affected such that they don't, what they used to do, they are not behaving normally. They are stressed up, they are psychologically, etc. Then there is what we call accounts of profit. Accounts of profit actually mean that the claimant can request the court. The claimant can request the court to give him or her all the profits. So if you if you gained profit by publishing private information, so the claimant can request the court to give him all the profit that the defendant made as a result of using his or her confidential information. And the last one, we are going to look at what we call delivery app. Delivery app. So delivery app simply means that the court may order the defendant to return all the confidential information that he has gathered which belongs to the claimant. So court inaweza amua uende uchukue the defendant alete all the confidential information relating to the claimant, ampatie na maneno ishia hapo. So unless you have a question, I have a task that you need to do. Kuna swali? So that marks the end of that particular topic. Unless there is a misunderstanding somewhere, unless there is something that you have not understood, and maybe you want it clarified, etc., etc. Do we have any question?
Yes.
Go
Accounts
ahead.
of, under remedies of breach of confidence, accounts of profit. I was writing, but I'm stuck somewhere. Claimant requests the court to.
When you talk about that, yes, we are actually saying that sometimes the claimant may ask the court to give him or her all the profits that the defendant made as a result of using his confidential information. The claimant may request the court to give him or her all the profits that the defendant made as a result of using his or her confidential information. Like, for example, you come to realize that, maybe let's talk about a celebrity. Let's say, for example, Lillian Muli. You can, maybe you know something, maybe you know something little, maybe about her properties, or maybe her children, or maybe his husband, her husband, or something like that. Then you go to Facebook and you write something private about Lillian Muli, and then you start gaining money from there. You know how the bloggers do it. So Lillian Muli decides to go to court and sue you for actually publishing his private information on a blog. Then you are told, now all the profit that you have made as a blogger, can you bring all that profit and give it to Lillian Muli? So that is a very good example of accounts of profit. Any other question?
So under accounts of profit, and can I say, for example, and after breaching the confidentiality between you and the other party, the other party gets into losses. Maybe it is like a company or a business.
Yeah, it gets into losses. That is one.
So can you be told to cater for their losses, or
yes.
you pay something like 50 million to that company?
Yes. Remember, when we have already talked about delivery app. Delivery app or accounts of, actually, let's talk about accounts of profit. When you talk about accounts of profit, we have said that sometimes it is very difficult to determine the losses, especially if, for example, somebody was stressed. The psychological effects of maybe breaching the confidence, it's very difficult to establish how you're going to pay somebody, because people are affected differently. There are people who don't even care, and there are people who are actually affected a lot. They are stressed up, they can't eat, they cannot do their normal duties, etc., etc. So it is upon the judges to decide whether, if a particular company went or made a lot of losses, whether you should pay them in form of, I mean, they calculate the case, I mean, the losses. Let's say, for example, your company is used to making, maybe in a month, it makes 10 million or maybe 50 million. And it has been consistent like that. But since private information of the company was published, you realize that from 50 million, we went to like 5 million or maybe 7 million. So the court has its way of calculating the losses and actually directing the defendant to pay for those losses. Any other question?
No, sir.
So because there is no question, just remember you have like less than an hour, and I'm going to post something that you're supposed to write. And my discussion will be like this. It's not a discussion, but it is a contribution on cases that have, I mean, any case that you know, or any case that you know that exists, and it was all about breach of confidence. So I'm going to state that. So ninasema hivi, leo kwa discussion forum, we are how many? Na tafadhali msihepe. Deborah, I know you are there. Elvis, I know you are there. Femi and Khalid, I know you are there. So what I want you to do is to contribute, giving us real life cases that have already happened in Kenya that relate to what we call breach of confidence. Maybe a case between A and B. Say, for example, Khalid and Femi. Femi did this to Khalid. He was taken to court, and these were the charges that, or this is what the court said about it. So that is what I want from anybody, from all of you. So Deborah, utakuja na kesi yako, na hizo cases zisifanane. You're going to find out and put it down. Elvis, the same, a different case. Femi, you're going to come up with a different case. And Khalid, you're going to come up with a different case. Okay, let me put it this way. Let it be nationally. Let us not deal only on Kenya, about Kenya. Let's also look at other countries like US, all the countries in the world. Cases that have been brought to the have been brought to the court, and what the court decided on them as far as breach of confidence is concerned. So the forum I'm creating right away. I'm creating that particular forum right away. So you're supposed to contribute. After contributing, that is when I will tick your register. After contributing, that is when I will open these notes for this particular topic. I hope we have understood each other. Wengine wanazunguka wakitafuta discussion forum, na iko tu hapo kwa hiyo topic yetu ambao tu hapo menye umeingilia blue button kwa hii meeting. The topic is there, and which is the one I'm creating as we speak. So unless kuna swali, nitawaacha mwende discussion forum.